Hello, hello. Welcome to my live chat. This is Daniel West from Dell and Artie. Happy to be here with you today to talk just a little bit about Copic coloring and markers and maybe a little bit of the images that I like to use. All of those things are important to me, and apparently they are important to you. You showed up for the chat today. So let's talk about them. What do you have in mind? What do you want to know? What do you want to know? Just kind of by way of introduction, I have a blog, dellandarty.com, and I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/dellandarty, where I demonstrate how to do Copic coloring and basically do it yourself card making, and do it yourself kindness. I see lots of my friends coming up here saying good morning. I see Crafty Al. She's so sweet. Hello, hello. And she's amazing. Oh my goodness. From Queensland, Australia, I see people here. Ah, you're excited about the conga stamp to come Monday, maybe, hopefully. That's nice. Peggy Larmore says. I know that there are people here from Facebook and some people from YouTube. So I'm happy to have you here. Happy to see you here with me this morning. I see someone from the Netherlands, Natalie Hansen. Welcome, welcome. Stephanie's enduring the winter storm. Melly from Italia. Buongiorno, principessa. O buonasera, maybe. Is it evening there? Hi, Linda. Barb wants to know about shading. Well, what do you want to know about shading? Tell me more. Creative Treasures asks, what is my favorite style of card making? My favorite style is, well, I love storybook style Copic coloring. That's my favorite way to color. My favorite style is more clean and simple kind of stuff. If I get a card and I see it clean and simple, it really is impressive to me. I like a lot of white space on my cards or just simple color blending. I love that. It's my favorite. Um, Facebook user, I don't know your name, but you asked, do you think it's easier to start with flowers than animals? Flowers are to me pretty difficult actually to get them done, lifelike. But if you'd want to do them in more of a comic book kind of way, it's probably easier to start with them. Either way, they follow many of the same principles with lighting. You just kind of imagine where the light's going to fall on an object and then where the shadow might fall on there. Kyla wants to know how to do shading. How do I know how to do shading? That's a really good question. And by shading, I suppose you mean, because I don't see any details about that question, but I suppose you mean light source. Like, where does a light fall? Watch me change my light source here on my camera. I'm going to turn up this light over here really, really bright. Then I'm going to turn this light off. And now you can see that the light is coming in from up here and hitting me here, and it casts a shadow on this side of my face. See that? And so when I do Copic coloring, I try to imagine that light falling on my object and seeing where the dark spot would be on the other side of it. See that? See that how it's dark on the side of my face? Well, when I do Copic coloring, I have to imagine where that light source is coming from. So this is an electric light over here, and it's falling down on my face and making this side dark. So that's the first thing. You got to learn to imagine where light is hitting your face, right? Or hitting your object. Doesn't necessarily mean your face, right? But where is the light hitting your object? And then you can know where to put the darker parts of your coloring in. I have a light source practice sheet I can send you. Um, some of you already have it, but if you email me, at dellandarty@gmail.com, dellandarty@gmail.com, I can send you that light source. I'll send it to you. No worries. Trish, I'm glad I'm back too this year. I love doing this. This is one of my favorite activities the whole year. I see someone says is interested in how to use the markers. Already watched your first video. Thank you very much. All right. Anyhow, let's see other questions in here. Hello, hello. I'm happy to stay inside with you all. Yeah, me too. How to decide the light source. Very good. Okay, Marianne wants to know how to explain or wants me to explain storybook style. Very good. Thank you very much. What a great question, Marianne. Storybook style is uh, now there are lots of ways to do Copic coloring with lots of blending in them. I'm not set up to do a demonstration this morning. I'm just doing a chat with you guys. But if you look at some Copic coloring, it's super blendy, like really well blended. For example, here's one I did that's really blended, right? Let's see if I can just show you an example. Focus, 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 focus. It wants to focus on my face. So let's get it right to my face. See how I blended the light side over here to the darker side over here? That is not storybook style. This is more just a regular Copic style coloring. And what I've done is made it look like there's light hitting this side of the cactus container and going on over here, right? And then up here, I've blended in this cactus, but you see the same light is hitting this side of the cactus, and then it's casting a shadow on each of the cactus pear. I guess that's what you call. I don't know what kind of cactus this is, but each of the little folds on this cactus have kind of a different light hitting them, so and a different shadow on the other side. That's regular Copic coloring. But when we do storybook style Copic coloring, I have a box of cards here. I know I've got at least one with storybook style coloring in it. And when we do that kind of coloring, well, I thought I would have at least one, but maybe I don't. Yeah. It's more of a splotchy kind of coloring. I don't have one in that box. More of a splotchy, like I did in my demonstration this morning. So you're looking for texture. You're looking for kind of impressionistic look. If you know what impressionist art is, it's more dotting in of items of color. And so when you dot them in, you're not necessarily looking to blend them. It just is a lot easier to do. You add in the color and the texture as you like it, and you don't worry too much about the results. You're not trying to blend everything in perfectly, and that's where a lot of people have trouble with Copic coloring. Thank you, Tiffany. She says she loves my coloring. That's sweet. I love the Copic, the storybook style, and it's kind of an imitation of watercolor as well. So if you're trying to do watercolor effect with Copic markers, I guess that's the way to put it, because watercolor is kind of splotchy and it's kind of imperfect. And so this kind of Copic coloring kind of suits the beginner. It really does suit the beginner. I mean, it to some people, I mean, the results are great, and so it looks like it was really hard. But when you watch me do it, did it look hard to you? I don't think it did at all. A Facebook user asks, "Are all alcohol markers created equal?" No, they're not. They're definitely not. But they are all useful in their own way. So there are different brands and different qualities, and the different brands have a different kind of level of brightness or a level of saturation. Um, Copic markers are the benchmark. They're the ones everyone wants to be like, I guess. So they're the LeBron James of alcohol markers. or the Tiger Woods, or I don't know, name some super famous top of the line. They're the top of the line. They're the luxury class. So everyone wants to be like them. Um, there's another marker brand out there that I am using now and I'm learning now. It's called Sketch Marker Pro. Here's one of them. And these are available from Ellen Hudson. In fact, well, I do work for ellenhudson.com, but um, Sketch Marker Pros, these are amazing. I mean, they're um, super juicy, and the colors are fantastic, and they work just like Copics to me, and they feel very much like them, and they are a lot less expensive. So if I'm going to go for an alternative, I would go for Sketch Marker Pros. But I don't have an equivalence of them with Copics because I'm used to using Copics, and I like to have the best, so I like Copics a lot, but I love those Sketch Marker Pros too. So I'm going to be getting a lot more of them soon and be working with them as well. So you guys will see more of those in the future. In the future, I'm glad you liked my demonstration, Crafty Owl. I love you. I love your darn face. I love your videos too. All right. Um, what got me into card making? Well, I have a friend at our church, and she is fantastic at card making. She got me into it. She's she actually she has a YouTube video, uh, a YouTube a YouTube channel. Can't even think. She has a YouTube channel. Um, Paper for Life is her online name. Vilma Mendes is her name. She is all in Spanish. Her stuff is in Spanish, but she got me into it. She brought some of her cards to church one day and some of her crafty supplies. And I thought, man, look at the detail on this stuff. And touching the embossing, she would like clear emboss the sentiments on her projects. And I thought, wow, this is really nice craftsmanship. And so my family went to visit her house, and she showed us her crafter, and we played around with stuff, and it got me hooked. So I started with a friend at church. That's how it started. Thank you for explaining this. I always get to color happy. You always get color happy. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, storybook style is super easy, much easier. Thank you, Frida. I'm glad it was helpful to you. That's what we want. I love that what Frida says. I can't wait to color today. That makes me super happy. Makes me super happy. Diane Plum says, "Are Copic markers alcohol based?" Yes, they are alcohol based. In fact, I mean, you wouldn't want to use rubbing alcohol in your markers at all. Don't ever do that, because the Copic the Copic markers have a different kind of alcohol that they use. But if you want to clean up after, which I often do, I just put a little alcohol in a mini mister. This is a mini mister from Tim Holtz Ranger, and I just put the alcohol in there, and then just spray my little workspace or my misty or whatever I'm working on, my glass board, and clean it right up, and it comes right up. And if you get some on your fingers and you're not afraid to get some alcohol on your fingers, you can also do that. If you have a lot of paint on your fingernails, I wouldn't recommend spraying them with alcohol. But if you're like me and you don't use fingernail polish, you can spray some alcohol on them and get alcohol ink off of them as well. So there's that. What else, guys? Thank you for sharing my email address. Thank you. Lyrical Wonder says, "What qualities are in Copic friendly paper that makes it work best?" Okay, so Copic friendly paper has a couple qualities that are important. First, it has kind of a glossy feel to the front of it, which allows the ink to stay on the surface a little better. So when it stays on the surface, it moves around a little bit, it blends better that way. It's also more tightly woven fibers. If you think of it this way, if you have watercolor paper and that's uh, loosely loose fibers, I guess they're looser fibers. When you tear it, you can see the fibers more easily. That watercolor paper will kind of soak up the ink, and it's harder to blend on. And the kind of cardstock that you use actually makes a difference in this way with Copic markers. If you have a cardstock that is very absorbent, it's going to make it harder to blend those colors together because the paper is going to take in the ink. But if you have like a express it card, like I showed earlier in my presentation, it's going to sit on the surface a little better because it's more tightly woven, and that ink is more blendy. It's more blend. It makes the ink more blendable that way. Just you'll notice the difference. Buy you a small pack of it if you want to try it out. Just buy a small pack. Don't go crazy on it until you know that you want to make a lot of projects with Copic markers, because it can be a little pricier than regular cardstock. But if you want to try it out and you're really into it, or if you're one of those crafters like me, I love to try things and I'll just buy whatever because I think it's fun and I have a little bit of disposable income and this is my business and I can try stuff out if I want to. So I just buy stuff, I'll grab it and be like, I'm going to try that because it's fun, you know. Instead of going out to eat or going to watch a movie somewhere, I'll just buy me a new thing of craft stuff and just have some fun here in my office. So yeah, it can cost a little bit more, but try it out and you'll notice the difference. If it doesn't matter to you, don't worry about it. I wouldn't make a big fuss about it. But if you're using Copic markers, you might as well get the good paper too, you know. Creative treasures, my biggest issue. Oh, Frida says, can Yupo paper be used to color with markers? I don't have the other Copic paper you were talking about. Hmm. I think Copic Yupo paper is probably not the best for Copic coloring, because I guess that's on the other side of things. You might want to use it for alcohol inks um, like Tiffany Solorio does. She's amazing with that. She might be able to answer that question a little better too, but I've never tried coloring on it. First of all, because it's hard to get an image to stay on Yupo paper. And second, because uh, it's so it's plastic, it's basically plastic, and so the markers kind of don't stay in place. Coloring doesn't stay in place. Can you use alcohol to blend also? Uh, Diane, in that, I would not use alcohol, like rubbing alcohol for that. There is a product that Copic has called Various Ink, and it's the same ink that goes into the colorless blender. So there's a colorless blender available, and it's not really for blending, but it is for, I use it for knocking back areas that I made a mistake on, or if I just want to lighten something, or if I want to erase if I go outside the lines. But I would just use a lighter color of the same. Or you can take some of your darker marker and rub it out on a glass mat or some non-porous surface, and then just pick some up with your colorless blender and then blend it out. Or you could pour a little bit of that colorless blender out on a glass mat and then pick it up with a marker, lighten up the tip, and then blend it out that way. You could do that. It won't hurt your colors at all. How do you select colors? Good question, Joan. Depending on what I'm coloring, of course. If I'm coloring something like a flower, I want a brilliant saturated color. Usually, um, if I'm going for a different look, like a more sophisticated look, I'll go for colors with the number in the higher end, like 90s or 80s or 70s. If I'm going for something that is brighter, uh, very spring like, and I want a lot of saturation in the image, I'm going to go for colors on the lower end of the spectrum, like 30s, 20s, 10s, and aughts, the zeros. Um, How do I pick other colors? There are ways to pick color palettes that I like to recommend you. There's a website called coolors.co, coolors.co. That website is super fun and easy to pick color palettes, and it also has a Copic function. So if you find a Copic palette or a palette that you like and you want to imitate that, put that on a project or use those colors in a project, it'll tell you which Copic marker to use for that. So that's pretty cool. I think I shared that last year. Um, Otherwise, one more tip on picking colors. Um, One more tip on picking colors is keep your color palette limited. Try not to go overboard. Stay in the same family. Pick like two complementary colors, like a red and green or a blue and yellow, or pick colors that are next to each other on the rainbow, like red, orange, yellow, or pink, red, orange, or yellow, green. Right, yellow, green, or blue, green, and then green, blue, and purple, stuff like that that are pretty close to each other. But pick a few of them. Otherwise, you're going to look like a rainbow throw up on your project, which, you know, everyone loves rainbows, but rainbows aren't like everything. Rainbows aren't everything. Rainbows are pretty, but they're not everything, right? Tiffany Daniel, I like your last name. How often do you need to replace your markers? Uh, I don't think I've ever replaced my markers. Maybe if I left the cap off, I've had to replace the nib on my markers. A few of them I've destroyed by accident, but not because I just had regular use with them, but because I was being irresponsible. So, generally speaking, if you take care of your markers, you only have to replace the nib sometimes, and that is also very rare. And I color a lot. So, you know, you could, depending on how often you use that one marker, you may not need to replace a nib for a couple years. So I don't know. I don't really know how to answer that, but there is a way to do it. You just, if I were you, if you are a frequent colorer, I would have a few packs of the nibs on hand. You can get those at the same place I gave you uh, my worksheet list, Violetta ink, and they have all of those products on there. I think the best price on the web, as far as I know, is from the place I put in my list, my supplies list. BB Production Studio. Daniel, have you ever done a comparison video of different alcohol marker products? I would be curious to see your feedback. I have not. I've not done that. But I do have some alcohol markers from Altany that I want to try. And I have the Sketch Marker Pros that I'll be getting in soon, I'm sure. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I will be doing that. So yeah, thanks. Good question. Stephanie said she loved my cactus. Thank you. Thank you very much. I need to get down here to new comments. Let's get down here. What is the best way to store alcohol markers? I store mine like this. Let's see that? I store mine like that. Some people say you should store them horizontally. That's not true. It's just not true. It's not true. It's not true. You can store them however you like. They don't have to be airtight. They don't have to be. Just make sure your caps are not loose. You know. Can the Copic papers be run through an inkjet printer to use with digital stamps? Yes, they can. Yep. They're not too thick like some cardstocks. Um, some printers may not be able to handle cardstock, but Express card is not too thick. And yes, you can run it through with inkjet printers. Yeah. Thank you, Ardith. Thank you very much. Do you find Copics fade after they dry? They do fade a little bit. And when I say fade, I don't mean like over time. They're color fast. But when you put them on the paper immediately, they're going to be a little darker because of the alcohol in them. But when the alcohol evaporates, the wetness goes away, and so yeah, it does dry back a little bit, but doesn't really fade. Oh, Victoria Clifford says that she uses a different brand and the color fades quite a bit because that's another problem with cheaper brands. The Copic markers are artist quality markers, and they don't their color fastness is better. I can just say that. How about that? There was a comment that I didn't that I think I missed, but Joan Crick, it seems like a lot less messy than watercolors. How affordable are these compared to watercolor? They are not affordable. I'm kidding. You know what? I got my Copic markers. Um, Colorado Craft Company and I are super good friends, and they were so kind when when they first started, and I was starting out as a card artist, and we kind of got connected, and they sent me a bunch of Copic markers that they received or that they found on clearance at Hobby Lobby. And so I have a ton of markers because they sent them to me. But also, find them if you're really looking for an inexpensive way to get them, and you're willing to risk it. I have also gone to Facebook Marketplace and found artists that bought them and were like, "Oh, these aren't for me," and they're willing to let them go for a lower price. Um, that's probably easier for people in urban areas where there's a lot of people, but you risk getting markers that are dried out or whatever. They've been around for too long or something like that, and they're just probably the best way for me to recommend to you if you really want to get into it is don't buy all of them. Get my worksheet that I have listed below. I'm about to leave you guys, but get my worksheet. There's a sheet in there that talks about picking Copic colors, getting a nice set before buying all of them. Okay, so I want to recommend that to you. And all of the Copic markers are the same. Copic Classic, Chow, and Sketch markers. It's just the barrel of them is different. The barrel of them is different. The Chow are round, and the sketch markers are kind of oval. All right. Erin says she loves her Olo markers. That's great. I haven't even tried those yet. Karen Day says, "What is the website?" It's coolors.co. Coolors.co. All right. Thank you. Coolors.co. There it is. All right, guys. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I'm glad you enjoyed the presentation. Grab my worksheet that's available free on that presentation area, and I hope you have a wonderful time. Take care, and God bless.